India's long-drawn fight for patients' rights finally begins to bear fruit. The Union Health Ministry has released the draft charter for patients' rights. These new rules intend to empower patients. But the Indian Medical Association is not convinced yet. Doctors say the existing guidelines are enough to ensure patients are treated fairly. Mirror now asks the citizens whether an overhaul of the way private hospital function is needed.
दवाई लेने के लिए ऐसा कुछ होना नहीं चाहिए, पैसा लेना एक गलत काम है।
सही बात है कि नहीं रोकना चाहिए, पोस्टमार्टम करते हैं और खाली पब्लिक को सताने का काम करते हैं।
Mirror now asks, will these new rules end hospital loot? Let's debate.
Joining me on the show, Dr. R.N. Tandon is the Joint Secretary of the Indian Medical Association. Dr. Sameer Dalwai is the National President of Development Chapter of the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. So here's the question. Will we be able to actually do a rate card? Dr. Sameer Dalwai joins us right now. Dr. Dalwai, yeah,
what's your question?
Dr. Dalwai, go ahead, please.
Well, if you're talking about the rate card, I think, of course, it should be done, and many places it's been done. But with respect to this charter, let's understand that the healthcare services in this country are divided into two parts. One is a public health system, and then there's a private health system. The public health system also is divided into two parts. One is the tertiary hospitals, which we call the teaching medical colleges or the teaching hospitals, which have a medical college and academic unit attached to it, which are the big hospitals like the AIIMS, the KEM hospital, the JJ hospital, so on and so forth. And then there are the other hospitals which we call the peripheral hospitals, which are much smaller units down up to the PHC, that is a primary healthcare center. There's a huge disparity in the healthcare even at these two, though they are both in the public health sector. Similarly, in the private health sector, you have the tertiary care hospitals, the big hospitals like the Leelavati Hospital and the Jaslok Hospital or the Nanavati Hospital. At the same time, you have these thousands and thousands of small nursing homes which have 5 beds, 10 beds, 20 beds. A huge number of patients in our country still goes to these smaller nursing homes which are 20 bedded, 30 bedded for various reasons. And the biggest reason I still feel is the failure of the public health care system. And even if you look at the charter mentions that the first reference it draws from is the Constitution of India in Article 21, which enshrines the duty of the government of the day, that the Constitution puts it on the government for them to provide the best health care. The other point,
are you saying the government is not able to do its job right now?
Let me just put it across to you. You take this charter which has come across, take one government hospital and implement it in that and show us. My point is this, it's all right to have all these charters. See, ethics is a very simple issue. Dr. Amdekar, my teacher, always told us, do to the patient what you would want to be done to you if you were the patient. Simple. That clears out ethics. My point is, if you have these so many charters or so many things written down, how about implementing it? So I would first say, let the government select one government hospital, let it implement this in the government hospital. Let it be a pilot run. Let us see what are the teething problems or actual problems when you are actually implementing it. And at the same time, take a private hospital which is willing to do this, run it like a pilot, see what are the problems coming through it, and then put it across. Otherwise, it's just going to be out in the public space, news for a few days, and well, it's back to square one as always. Healthcare is still going to be as bad. The poor patient who doesn't have any support.
Yes, I have a couple of people. Jain Singh, how important is it to bring in this regulation?
Fair. I would like to appreciate the brotherhood between the doctors, the way they defend themselves. Like they go to the extent that they want to pilot ethics. Someone mentioned that there are hospitals who are already doing this. There are certain hospitals, there's many hospitals which are doing this. I just want to ask him one name, which hospital has published the rate card on their website or in the hospital itself. I am talking about Fortis. How do you rank Fortis? What kind of hospital that is? It has even not done it. And you are talking about that whether most of the hospitals do it? In which world we are looking at? What action IMA has taken on that? Will IMA come with me and protest against outside Fortis tomorrow? Will they come? They will just fight for the doctors. They will just come out, speak and try to defend their brotherhoods for like anything.
I can only say that what this gentleman is saying comes out of pain from his heart because he has suffered, he has lost a dear one, and he has faced the short end of the stick. You know, some of you doctors can come and defend everybody, but the black sheep in your community and the fleecing that private hospitals are doing today in front of the eyes of the Government of India, Ministry of Health, in front of the Medical Council, ICMR, all officialdom. Actually, there is no regulation in the medical sector. Today it is private people. Tomorrow, government is going to spend tens of thousands of crores in Ayushman, medical insurance. These same people will start gouging from the public money, and they'll start looting state governments and central government by giving inflated bills in the same way as they are doing so with private people. Then how will the public welfare be done? There is no option today but to regulate the entire health sector from end to end, from drugs to hospitals and even mortuaries. They are not releasing bodies until the money is
Dr. Dalwai will respond. Dr. Dalwai?
At every end.
I'm not sure.
Therefore, we from Consumer Voice welcome the Patients Charter which has been brought forward with the efforts of the National Human Rights Commission.
I'm not sure I'll be able to assuage the pain of
Dr.
people
Dalwai,
who have
please.
faced these hardships, and I don't doubt that at all. But I have just one point to make. In our passion, when we speak about this, let's understand one thing. If you look at the automobile industry, you have an automobile engineer who's on the floor making the car, for example. It may be a Maruti, it could be a BMW, it could be a Mercedes. He doesn't own Mercedes, the company as such. He is just the engineer who's going to look at the technical aspects of it. Now, the hospitals that you named, none of these hospitals are owned by doctors. I don't know why we don't get this. These are all owned by business houses. If you look at the government hospitals, they're owned by the government. The doctor is a technician who's there, hired on a job or as a consultant. He does not decide the charges of the injections or the drugs in the hospital. Yes, Mr. Murthy was right. He should not be forced to buy medicines from the hospital chemist. Now, this is a very specific issue where the government or the regulatory authority needs to call the bunch of guys who own these hospitals and sit with these guys and tell them, hey, what are you doing? Why is it that you're forcing patients to buy medications from only your chemist at inflated prices, like you said? Why is your price of your MRI different for this category and that category? The government or the regulatory authority needs to call the hospital owners and sit with those bunch of guys and decide it. The doctors have no say in it. There is a huge amount of pressure on nursing homes, which is why they are not viable. If you look at the government hospital sector, no doctors want to work there because you prescribe a medicine. Okay, hang on.
Yes.
I prescribe a generic medicine in the government hospital and it's not available in the government chemist or in the hospital. What do you do about that? Do you blame the doctor for that? The doctor doesn't buy medicines in the government sector for the government hospital. He has nothing to do with it. My point is, if we have to improve something, we need to know what are we looking at, who are we looking at, and where is the fault. Just getting passionate and blaming is just going to be a blame game. I'm not here to defend anybody. I'm just saying, let's understand where the mistakes are happening. It's not the doctor who's to blame for everything. Yeah, one last point. So when we talk about the public health systems, we say, and Mr. Singh rightly said that they are overcrowded. Why is that the case? The case is because the government spends a measly 1% of the national budget on your and my health. And this is not out of anybody's pocket. It is because out of your and my pocket. It is the countrymen, my countrymen, all of us who are paying our taxes. But the government gives only 1% priority to putting our taxes in healthcare. Unless that changes, the quality cannot improve. The government has to spend more on public health.